Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Amir Epstein. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Tafsik organization. Thank you, and thank you. I want to take a moment to thank my brother, co-founder Brian Lipovetsky, there he is, for being an extraordinary partner in this fight to protect the Jewish community in Canada. This would never happen without this guy. Thank you. I want to thank Tafsik's most incredible, unbelievable team who built this entire evening. Alessa Polga, wherever she may be. She's running around doing a million things. Jesse Moscow. Alan Nussbaum, who's sitting with Brigitte Gabriel getting photos. Sophia Marquez, who's been working nonstop. Helen Nasiaski, there she is. Pat Tennant, the superwoman. Michelle Schipper. Daniela Gold, who's out there with the merchandise, who worked her butt off on that. Anita Bromberg, our legal liaison. Jacqueline Lewis, our head of legal division. Daphna Polak, who couldn't be here. You know, Tafsik has never been stronger. A very special thank you has to go out to the International Christian Embassy in Jerusalem, our Christian sponsor for this incredible event. Donna Holbrook, who's here with us, has been fighting this fight for longer than probably anybody in this room. She's a true patriot, an incredible friend and ally. She's been to Israel more than everybody in this room put together, and it's incredible work that you do. Thank you. I also want to thank Collier's for sponsoring this event, an incredible realty group who's been so supportive for the past half year, anytime we need anything. Now I'm going to be direct. Canada is in serious trouble. Anti-Semitism has become normalized, and anti-Zionism has become a fashionable disguise. It's no longer confined to the margins. It is showing up in our politics, in our media, our schools and universities, and in mainstream culture. For decades, we understood anti-Semitism as a far-right disease built on old conspiracies and lies about Jewish power and control. Today, we are facing a broader, more modern, more socially acceptable wave, which is a demonization of Israel, which quickly becomes a demonization of Jews. It comes packaged as justice, but it spreads the same poison. Jews are accused of genocide, Jews are accused of apartheid, Jews are accused of monstrous crimes designated to make us untouchable in public life. They are saying that we're eating babies. How do you even respond to such a stupid accusation? This fight is about Islamists and extremist networks such as the Muslim Brotherhood, the Islamic regime in Iran, Qatar, and the political and cultural movements that carry their propaganda for them. Those extremists have learned how to weaponize our open society, and too many people on the hard left have become their loudest megaphone, the doormats that they are. We've watched it happen in real time. We've seen Islamist intimidation and incitement marching openly through Jewish neighborhoods at Bathurst and Shepherd. Their allies have marched and chanted while our community is told to stay calm, stay quiet, and shut up. And while this is happening to many of the institutions that should be protecting the Jewish community, well, I'm sorry, but they're failing us. Some of the largest organizations are sitting on enormous war chests, fundraising endlessly, building empires, hoarding money instead of spending it where it belongs. Protect our community. Instead of building real security capacity, fighting incitement, applying real political pressure, they're building hockey rinks. When Jews are being attacked and threatened and targeted, the answer cannot be another gala, another donation pitch. The answer has to be action. For the last 20 years, thank you. For the last 20 years, we've had plenty of statements, plenty of "we are disappointed," plenty of "we condemn." Meanwhile, the threats grew, the hatred grew, and the price was paid by ordinary Jewish Canadians. Well, that's why Tafsik exists. We're not here to be liked. We are here to be effective. We are here to confront the politicians, sue the politicians, institutions, and yes, community leadership that has learned to manage anti-Semitism instead of defeating it. We're the ones that everybody's scared of. We're the ones that everybody threatens. And here is one of the most uncomfortable truths of all. In Canada, politicians court two communities for votes. I mean, many communities really, but for this example, two communities for votes, the Jewish community and the Muslim community. Often, our interests are at odds. Not always, but often. Many politicians believe they will pay a serious price in Muslim spaces for appearing even mildly supportive of the Jewish community of Israel. But they also believe they can insult Jews, they can slander Jews, they can fail the Jews, and they'll still be welcome in our synagogues for photo ops and applause. They can light the menorah for Hanukkah as well. If a politician knows that they can be banned from one community's events for crossing a line, but can always count on a seat at the Jewish table no matter how many times they kick us in the teeth, then we have taught them exactly how to treat us. We, all Jewish organizations, must stop inviting politicians and officials who traffic in Jew hatred or enable the movements that spread it to satisfy those who hate us. Stop inviting Olivia Chow after years of insults and anti-Zionist rhetoric that fuels hostility towards Jews. Stop inviting Mark Carney or any public figure who gives legitimacy to narratives that target the Jewish state in ways that spill over into targeting Canadian Jews. Stop inviting the Toronto Police Chief Myron Demkew after our community has repeatedly been failed on basic protection and basic enforcement while incitement is allowed to metastasize. It's not just those names. It's anyone who has shown us through their actions and through their words that Jewish safety, well, that's negotiable. No more honoring them. No more stage time, no more candle lightings or synagogue dinners as if nothing ever happened. No more smiling photos that signal forgiveness without accountability. Accountability is not mean. Accountability is survival. Because if we don't draw lines, the hatred will keep growing and growing. The intimidation will continue to grow as well. The violence will keep escalating, and the people who failed us will learn that there's no cost to failing the Jews. Tafsik is here to change the rules. We don't care about access. We don't need a chair at the table with Mr. Carney. We don't care about being invited to those right rooms. We care that Jewish Canadians can live openly, safely, and proudly in this country. Now, I'd like to introduce our moderator for the night. Joe Adam George is a Canadian foreign policy and national security analyst specializing in Islamist extremism, terror financing, and Middle East and South Asian geopolitics. He is a research lead for Islamist threats in Canada, you're too quick, and the Middle East Forum, and is affiliated with the Macdonald-Laurier Institute. He previously worked in Canada's Parliament, has written for outlets including the National Post, the Globe and Mail, and the Hill Times. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Adam George. And now, our featured guest. Me! No, I'm kidding. Brigitte Gabriel is a Lebanese-American author, political commentator, a national security activist best known as a founder and actor of Act for America. She was born in Lebanon. She survived the Lebanese Civil War before immigrating to the United States in 1989. She's a frequent speaker on terrorism, Middle East affairs, and Western security issues, and has addressed audiences including members of Congress, the Pentagon, the International Policy Forums. She's the author of several best-selling books, including Because They Hate and They Must Be Stopped. And she remains a prominent and often controversial voice in debates over Islamist extremism, immigration, and national security. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my absolute honor to introduce you to the incredibly powerful, incredible, amazing Brigitte Gabriel.
Hello. Great.
Well, hello, Toronto. I love it. Thank you for showing up tonight. I love being with you. I have to tell you, I've been so looking forward to coming to Toronto. And by the way, thank you for praying for good weather. It stopped raining at noon. I did bring a coat with me just in case. But thank you. I am so honored to be here. I'm so excited to be here. I couldn't wait to get to be with you. So you honor me with your presence tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Good evening, Toronto. Right. I'm going to kickstart stuff, but maybe, Brigitte, when was the last time you were in Toronto?
Last time I was here, I think it was 2007, 19 years ago. So wow. You can imagine. And actually, I have to tell you, yesterday when I was coming, I was so worried. I didn't even say a word on the plane because the last time I was here in 2007, a Palestinian recognized me, was working at the customs at the airport, and recognized me, pulled me to the side, made my life hell for about 4 hours. I ended up calling the sponsoring organization who sponsored me, who ended up calling the Prime Minister's office, Stephen Harper at the time, who called the airport, raised hell. Thank you. And finally, he demanded that they would release me, and I ended up coming and doing my presentation. So this year, I made sure I arrived yesterday, just in case I'm going to be delayed. And I didn't say a word on the plane. I was so worried. I mean, who would have thought I'm going to be worried entering Canada? You know, but we made it through, no problem. Everything was great. So, phew.
So, if that's the case, let's make sure that we survive this evening without being accused of Islamophobia and racism, and we're able to go back home safely.
Well, you know, they're going to accuse us anyway, no matter what we're going to say. So if they're going to accuse you anyway, we're the label. You know, we are not haters. We are not Islamophobe. We don't hate anybody. See, here is the irony. The irony is we people in the Judeo-Christian world, the Jews want to tikkun olam, they want to repair the world, they want to make the world a better place. We Christians, meaning me, I'm a Christian, okay? My religion teaches me, forgive those who trespass against you. Pray for your enemy. Forgive, you know. And so in my faith, the faith that I practice, hate is not even allowed. You know, it's condemned. So we are the last people to hate. I actually pray for those who stab me in the back, whether friends or foe, for anybody that hurts me. So the fact that they would call me an Islamophobe is just such an irrational statement. But the problem is we are facing an enemy that cannot argue with our facts. And when people cannot argue with your facts, the only thing they have left is slap you with a label. So to get you so busy defending yourself that you stop making the case based on your facts to win the argument. So don't ever let anybody silence you by slapping a label on you, calling you a bigot, calling you an Islamophobe. We are talking about serious issues facing our Western civilization. And it's time to throw political correctness in the garbage and call a spade. We are lovers, peace lovers, but we have to address issues.
Thank you, Brigitte, for making that very clear. Let's kickstart, because we got a lot to cover, and we need to get to the heart of the matter. I'm sure a lot of you are curious to know what Amir was talking about, the Muslim Brotherhood, definitely the flavor of the season. I am certainly interested. I've been tracking these buggers for a while, and so is Brigitte for decades, so let's get right onto it. So, Brigitte, I'm sure there's many in the audience here who perhaps are not very familiar with your past, your time in Lebanon. How did you end up in the U.S.? Maybe do you want to take us down memory lane? What happened during the Lebanese Civil War, and so on.
Yes, it's amazing that we are talking about this now, considering what we are watching happen in Lebanon right now. People who are watching television right now think Lebanon is a radical, terrorist-infested country. And they're not wrong, because it's exactly what's happening in Lebanon right now. Unfortunately, here's the truth. The country I was born into, Lebanon, and raised in Lebanon, when I was born, Lebanon was majority Christian. We were fair, we were tolerant, we were multicultural, we were a diverse society. We prided ourselves on our diversity and tolerance. We had open borders. We welcomed people who wanted to come into our country because we wanted to share with them the westernization which we had created in the heart of the Arabic world. Muslims used to send their children to study in our universities because we had built the best universities in the Middle East. They graduated and worked in our economy because we had built the best economy in the Middle East, even though we did not have any oil. Beirut became Paris of the Middle East. Unfortunately, all that began to change when we allowed people to come into our country who did not share our values. And when they would say, we hate you, and we want to transform the country, we didn't believe them. We thought, it's just a radical, crazy minority. They don't really mean it. They're just, they don't represent the majority. Unfortunately, they ended up dragging the whole country into war. My 9/11 happened to me in 1975, when radical Islamists, the combined forces of Islamists and Palestinians, blew up my home, bringing it down, burying me under the rubble, wounded. I ended up in a hospital for 2.5 months, and later ended up living in a bomb shelter underground in an 8x10 room without electricity, without water, and very little food. And that's where I lived for the next 7 years of my life, from the age of 10 till the age of 17. And when I was in the hospital, and I would ask my father, why did they do this to us? I mean, can you imagine a 10-year-old child wounded? Children don't understand, why people attack you or why people hate you. And my father would tell me, they hate us because we are Christians. They consider us infidels and they want to kill us. So I learned since I was a 10-year-old little girl that I am wanted dead simply because I was born into the Christian faith and lived in a Christian town. See, this is something many Jews in the audience relate to. Christians from the Middle East relate to this statement. But unfortunately, Christians in the Western world cannot relate to what it's like to be a minority belonging to a faith group in a majority Islamic Middle East, and how we are attacked and how we are driven out of these countries. So that was my childhood, and that's really what shaped my upbringing.
Thank you. Brigitte, you talked about living in a Lebanon that was multicultural, tolerant, faiths existed, various faiths existed rather peacefully. And then here comes along this influx of Palestinian refugees following the events of Black September in Jordan, and then your world is all upside down.
Right.
What is it about this Palestinian cause, or I like to call it as Palestinianism, that motivates Islamists to use it to just drive the entire world nuts, I mean, you're seeing what's happening in the West now, post-October 7th, though I'd argue the groundwork for it, as you've been warning everybody, has been going on for decades. What is it about the Palestinian cause that motivates Islamists to push a radical ideology in the West?
Well, what started with the Arabs could care less about the Palestinians. The whole Arabic countries could care less about the Palestinians. Actually, it's the countries that took them in, Kuwait, Jordan, Lebanon. I mean, look what they did in Kuwait. Look what they did in Jordan. In Jordan, they tried to overthrow the king. That's how he bulldozed tens of thousands of them, and that's how we ended up in Lebanon, accepting a third wave of Palestinian refugees into the country. Nobody wanted them because they have seen what the Palestinians do to every country they go to. But the Arabs did not care about the Palestinian issue as long as it kept the Palestinians, and as long as it kept their own people distracted with the Palestinian cause, so they don't pay attention to the one-man dictator or one royal family siphoning money out of the people, getting rich. When you look at the Middle East, all the leaders, whether it was al-Assad in Syria, he died and then his son took over, whether it was Saddam Hussein in Iraq, or when you look at all the royal families, I call the Middle East, when you look at the Middle Eastern countries, tribes with flags. You can identify every country, every tribe, by every flag, by one royal family or one-man regime. And so these royal families and the one-man regimes enjoyed having their people distracted, so they're not looking at how corrupt the leadership was, how all the leadership was multimillionaires while their people suffered. They had no problem with that. And so, but later on, as the years evolved and the Palestinians lied and lied and lied, basically rewriting history. I mean, we know Israel failed miserably in the PR department, while the Palestinians have rewritten history. So the new generations right now, including Westerners, who are screaming death to the Jews from the river to the sea, they don't even know what river or what sea. So you've got a generation of youth today throughout the world, but specifically in the Arabic world, who are anti-Israel, screaming that statement in Arabic countries without really understanding history. But that's why the Arabic world just did not care about the Palestinians. It was a convenient excuse at the time. They used them as pawns. They continue using them as pawns, and that's why now, with the war with Gaza, Egypt didn't want them. I mean, look at the border wall between Egypt and the West Bank right now, and Gaza. I mean, the border wall, they didn't want anything with them. They did not want them in. Saudi Arabia has tents. Remember that they do the Hajj every year, and millions of people descend on Saudi Arabia, and they've got all these tents, first-class tents, air-conditioned, beautiful accommodation, sitting empty, literally sitting empty for 11 months of the year. They didn't even allow one Palestinian to come to Saudi Arabia during the war. They didn't want them because they know the Palestinians cause problems.
I'm going to change gears a bit and come to our bread and butter issue of the Muslim Brotherhood. Given that it's obviously been prominently talked about in the last year or so, especially with President Trump, designating some of the chapters of this group as terrorist organizations. I think it's very important for us to firstly understand what our enemy is about, because the Muslim Brotherhood is not a conspiracy theory, but they are actually conducting a conspiracy to overthrow the government. And you just need to read the literature. I mean, sometimes the problem with us in the West is we don't read what our enemies tell us, and even if they are very explicit, we don't take them seriously.
Right.
And and we were talking about this. This is the disturbing excerpt from the 1991 strategic memo, which was produced as evidence during the Holy Land Foundation case, as you know, which, by the way, was the largest terror financing case in U.S. history. So I'm going to read an excerpt, all right? The Ikhwan, which is Arabic for brethren, must understand that their work in America, in North America actually, is a kind of grand jihad in eliminating and destroying the Western civilization from within and sabotaging its miserable house by their hands and the hands of the believers, Muslims, that is, so that it is eliminated and God's religion, Islam, is made victorious over all other religions. Now, clearly, if you read, this jihad is not about guns, bombs, or knives,
Right.
or even cars. It's talking about infiltration, subversion, and
Right.
taking over of institutions.
Right.
Could you tell us, what does this non-violent legal form of jihad actually entail? And how do these so-called silent jihadists go about, operate amongst us? And could you also maybe, because this might be new to a lot of people, and maybe you could give a couple of examples in the West of how, Muslim Brotherhood groups have succeeded in their mission.
Wow, this is a long and loaded question, so I'm going to answer it in stages. First of all, I want to talk about underestimating our enemy. We have never been faced ever before with an enemy that tells us, that's very honest, they don't beat around the bush, they don't mince words. They not only tell us how much they hate us, they brag about it. They're very proud, by the way, of how much they hate us. Not only they tell us how much they hate us, they write about it, they issue press releases about it, they put it up on the internet, they mail it to Al Jazeera to air it worldwide, on worldwide television and CNN. We've never been faced with an enemy that is so honest and so direct. But what do? We bury our head in the sand, pretending, no, we don't want to hear this, they don't mean it, this is a lie. I don't believe it, it's just a radical minority. And what we think of terrorists, to speak about the Muslim Brotherhood, our idea of terrorists, we picture Osama bin Laden. We picture men running around with dresses over pants with a towel wrapped on top of their head. That's our idea of how a terrorist looks like. We cannot picture a terrorist in an Armani suit. Well, I've got news for you. The Muslim Brotherhood are the terrorists in Armani suits who are living amongst us. They are the doctors. They are the lawyers. They are the engineers. Remember in London, about 10 years ago, the group of doctors that were arrested plotting to blow up the hospitals and suicide bomb the hospital in which they practiced. I think it was like a group of about 9 doctors. Remember that in England? A group of doctors were ready to go blow up the hospital in which they practiced to kill their patient, which they took an oath to protect, to serve, and to save the lives of their people. We in the West cannot fathom why would a doctor want to be a suicide bomber? Because our idea in the West of a terrorist, why would anybody want to do that? If you're a doctor, you're making money, you live in a nice house, you drive a Mercedes, you have a swimming pool, why would you want to kill yourself? Because in the West, our society is so materialistic, and we have moved so far away from religion in general. All Judeo-Christians, Christians or Jews, you see less and less religion in our society. While in the Muslim world, they're growing more and more devout. In our religion, the Jews and the Christians and the Buddhists and everybody else, the Hindus, the more you get in touch with your religion, with your ideology, the better person you become. Because our book or books teach about treat others the way you want to be treated. Do not judge others lest you be judged. Repair the world. Pray for your enemy. Forgive those who trespass against you. The more devout you become, the better person you become. On the other side, with the radical Islamic ideology, the more devout they become, the more radical they become. Because the ideology sanctions killing your enemy. The ideology, radical Islam, they believe in killing the enemy, in cutting off the heads, and throwing gays off of buildings. And women are the property of men. And so we in the West have a very hard time grappling with this. But to get back to the Muslim Brotherhood plan, because now we understand that the enemy is no longer men running around in dresses in the deserts in Afghanistan with a towel on their heads. They're actually lawyers dressed in Armani suits who have offices down Main Street in any major city, Western city, whether Australia, Canada, America, Europe, anywhere in Europe. they are living amongst us. Now, the Muslim Brotherhood, after the Islamic Empire ended in 1924 by Ataturk in Turkey, remember the Islamic Empire ended almost 100 years ago, just 102 years ago. And the people, the Muslim world hates Ataturk. Because he gave women right to vote, he forbid men from wearing the hijab, he gave women a right to an education. The Muslims hated him so much they called him a Jewish agent because they believed his mother was Jewish. So once Ataturk ended the caliphate in 1924 in Turkey, a group of Muslim scholars in Egypt 5 years later said, how can Christianity win over Islam? Islam is supreme to all other religion. Islam should rule the earth, because up until 1924, Islam has covered more of the earth's empire than the Roman Empire did at its peak, more than the earth's surface. And so that's when the Muslim Brotherhood was started. It started, they wrote their own document, how they want to resurrect the caliphate. And by the 1950s, people thought it's over. They're never going to be able to come back. Islam is over, the Islamic Empire is over, the caliphate is over. But two things happened in the Middle East that gave the Islamists the money and the power to regroup and organize. The first thing that happened was the discovery of oil in the Middle East, which gave them the money. And the number two thing that happened in the 1970s, 1979, is Ayatollah Khomeini coming to power in Iran. This gave the Islamists throughout the world not only the money, but the spiritual covering to organize and start growing across the globe. So the Muslim Brotherhood wrote the plan, the worldwide plan for radical Islam to infiltrate and dominate the West and establish an Islamic government on earth. In the counterterrorism circles, this plan became known as the project. And what makes the project so unique, which you read a paragraph out of that project, what makes it so unique is they discuss how they want to infiltrate every segment of our society, how they're going to infiltrate the education, how they're going to infiltrate politics, how they're going to infiltrate the entertainment industry. Like, for example, in Hollywood, you already can see the influence of the Islamists in Hollywood. Movies like Not Without My Daughter, you will never see that produced again in Hollywood because of the Islamic influence. So they are so detailed that when it comes to politics, for example, they instruct Muslims how they need to become members of both political parties in whatever country they are in, the Democrat and the Republicans, and how they need to rise within the party, and so they can sit on the board and have a voice, a voting voice within the party. They talk about how to put Muslim interns in political offices all throughout the West, so they can have an insider view of how policy is done at the highest levels. It is so detailed, you will be shocked. He only read you a paragraph about the goal of the Muslim Brother in North America. He read you a part of the North America project. They have a global project, which is 100 years. They have an North America project, which we are a part of North America, Canada, the South America, the United States, and literally in detail. So that plan was written in 1991. So here we are 35 years later. Look at the advancement that they have made. By the way, for those of you who have never read the plan, if you want it, you can go on our website, actforamerica.org, for a donation, tax-deductible donation, for $26. We will send you the plan so you can have it in your hand, you can print it, you can share it with your friends, you can copy it. It is so important to understand what our enemy is planning for us. And an example of today, how they are organized, all you have to do is look at Mamdani in the United States. Mamdani is a Muslim Brotherhood candidate. He's the Muslim Brotherhood front. Now, you see Mamdani, who's the mayor of New York, or Khan, who's the mayor of London. When you look at London, when you look at England, almost every major city in England has a Muslim mayor. But in America, for example, since it's closest to your neighbors, Mamdani is the latest example. Mamdani is not what you picture as somebody who's trying to sabotage a country. He's handsome, he's got a flashy smile, he's got a great personality. In his campaign, he went to bars, dancing at bars, at discos, at nightclubs, as a part of his campaign, appealing to the youth. And what did he do? The first order of business when he became mayor, removed the protection of the Jewish community immediately, second day. which was shocking because some Jewish people voted for him. So that's what we're looking at today when we look at Muslim Brotherhood. This is how I want you to think about the infiltration of our government and the impact that they're having. Whether in Canada, you all are facing the same problem in Canada. You can see Canada being transformed before your very eyes. I can tell you, I was in Canada in 2007. The Canada that I landed in yesterday is not the Canada that I saw 20 years ago. Canada is almost unrecognizable to me. And so you have a problem as much as we are having a problem.
You don't have to say that. It's something that we all see. Anti-Semitism is through the roof, as Amir was pointing out. Terrorist attacks. The RCMP reported 488% rise in Islamist extremism last year. CSIS, again, by the same token, has been pointing out about youth radicalization as well. But I want to stick with you on the Muslim Brotherhood issue, because you talked about, you explained really well the distinction between the violent and the stealth jihad parts of jihad. And of course, the Muslim Brotherhood essentially relies on stealth jihad. Having said that, obviously, they are not averse to violent jihad, because we know that they are the incubator of most of the modern day terrorist groups, whether it's ISIS or Al-Qaeda. They were all inspired by the Muslim Brotherhood ideology. In fact, an Israeli intelligence officer once told me rather profoundly, ISIS and Al-Qaeda are public safety threats, whereas the Muslim Brotherhood is a national security threat. It never struck me until he mentioned the distinction in Canada, because we refer to our national security department as public safety. What he was trying to imply was that what ISIS and Al-Qaeda pose, a violent threats, which cause bodily harm. But the Muslim Brotherhood does not pose such a threat.
Right.
Theirs is a long-term, they don't mind
methodical,
exactly,
strategic, slow, working like an ant, small accomplishments, one step at a time.
Exactly.
They've got patience. Actually, they are far more effective because they operate under the radar and they are very slow in their encroachment. And I think this is something I want to make very clear here. We, as a culturalistic society, as a multicultural society, as a diverse society, what made us wonderful is the fact that people came to these countries like us. Look at us right here. We came to North America because we wanted to be a part of this amazing experiment called North America. The Americas, the discovery of Americas, people came here to be the best they can be. They escaped persecution, and they came here pursuing opportunity, pursuing growth. What makes us so unique and so wonderful is we come to these nations to become a part of these nations, not to change them. Otherwise, we would have never left. If our countries were so hot, we wouldn't be here. Every single one of us. I'm looking at a tapestry of people with different colors, different hair, blonde, white, brown skin, fair skin, whatever, black, everybody here. This is a tapestry of what the beautiful diversity looks like. We love all people. We bring the food with us. I loved having the falafel today, and I love being able to see and you walk next to my hotel and you see the mall with all the delicious food, Thai food, Chinese food, Japanese food, sushi. I love sushi. A steak, falafel, shawarma, anything you want is here. But we brought the best of what our cultures offered, and we brought it here. What we have a problem with is not necessarily hating people. We don't hate people, but we want people to come to the West and become a part of what the West is. What makes the West so unique is every country has its own identity. Canada, the beautiful. Such a beautiful country, such a gorgeous country. But Canada has its own unique identity. America has its own unique identity, unique American Western identity. When you go through the West, London has its own unique Western identity. Ireland, Sweden, Belgium, Paris. Paris, the French have their own unique identity. Now, when you look at the Middle East also, the Middle East has its own unique identity. Lebanon, the food, the music, the belly dancing. I love belly dancing. That's how I exercise. The belly dancing, when you look at Jordan, the hospitality, the dates, when you look at every country, but every country has its own identity. Right now, what's happening in the West is the West's identity is being watered away. And it's becoming a mixture of what these people left in their countries that they did not like. They escaped oppression. They didn't like the Islamic ideology. They didn't like women not having any rights. They come to our countries, and now our countries are losing its own identity, its own beauty. So we're not against people migrating to our culture, because I think this is important to differentiate between the two. We're not against immigration, legal immigration per se, for people who work hard to come to our countries, to study our English language or the French language in Canada as well, to be able to work and prosper and create businesses and employ people and pay taxes into the system that will empower and grow and enrich every single one of us, including our countries. So we have no problem with immigration, legal immigration. The problem right now is we have allowed people to come into our countries in mass who do not share our values, and they have no intention of adopting our values. And so for their sake and our sake, we need to find a solution so we can discuss, and the only way to find a solution is to be able to discuss the problem, and not be called Islamophobe or bigots or racist, because it's not about bigotry, it's not about racism. I mean, look at us sitting at this stage. We are the perfect example. Brown-skinned people, both highly educated, both came to the West because we wanted to become a part of the West. Both of us love our countries, love our food. I mean, I'm sure your mom or, we cook the same yummy Middle Eastern food. We love the West and want to be a part of the West. That's why we speak English. That's why we raise our kids to speak English. And so this is the problem that we are facing in North America, and we have to be able to have and protect free speech, to be able to debate ideas, so we can not only better our lives, but their lives as well. Those who are coming into our societies and our countries who are either seeking refuge, and there's a lot of people who are seeking refuge, but there are a lot of people who are coming here to siphon off the system and sabotage North America, without any intention of ever becoming a part of us. They want to transform our societies to create an Islamic caliphate. And we already see the Islamic caliphate playing before our eyes. Look at the rights that you no longer have in Canada, that you're seeing those rights being eroded. And look at the rights that we are seeing eroded in the United States. Now, in America, we have a little break with President Trump. But thank God he was able to be elected again. And so we are able to try to reverse the damage that has been done. We have a lot of work for us to do in Canada, in America, in the United States, and a lot of Western countries, especially in Europe.
Yeah, so in regard to that, with the Trump administration taking a rather hard stance on the Muslim Brotherhood by designating some of the chapters, are you seeing an uptick in other governments also willing to play ball and look at the problem in their countries as well?
Well, I can tell you, in the United States, we worked very hard working with President Trump to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. And now, and I take great pride, my organization, Act for America, for those of you who are not familiar with it, everybody that goes home tonight, you need to go to actforamerica.org, actforamerica.org. We started working on introducing bills in Congress and working with our government to designate the Muslim Brotherhood, and in our country, CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, as a front for the Muslim Brotherhood. Because we know the Muslim Brotherhood has 29 front Islamic organizations set up in the United States for the sole purpose of destroying America from within. And so we started doing that not just at the national level, but we also work with elected officials in different states to introduce that. So we were able to pass that already in Texas, in Florida. We have it now introduced in Arizona, and we are introducing it in different states. And you in Canada, can do the same thing as well by working with your elected officials. All it takes is pressure on your elected officials. Now, we in America, I was able to build an organization that now has 5 million members. We have been able to pass 300 bills at the federal level and the state level because of, thank you, because of our activism. So for those of you who supported our organization who are here in the audience, because I had some people say, I supported Act for America, I've been to your national conference, I supported you, thank you, thank you, thank you a million times for enabling us to do this. Because people like you, stand up, stand up, stand up. I want to point out to one, yes, you. Stand up. She's one of our supporters, attended our national conference in Washington, D.C., so she knows how it's because of people like this that we are successful. And you can do the same thing in Canada. So in Canada, you can come together. I know there are different organizations like Tafsik, like Action for Canada. There are people who are working on stuff like that to get things done. So you could do that in your society. The only thing it takes is a passionate minority of dedicated activists to put pressure on your elected officials to make sure they start working on these issues. Remember, I have on my website a statement, 2% of the passionate will always overrule the 98% indifferent. I'm talking to the passionate right now. If you were not the passionate, you would not be in this room tonight, okay? So just imagine, yes, you can clap. You can give yourself a big clap. Here we go, everybody. Right. This is called activism in action. You voted with your feet tonight to come to this event. If you didn't care enough, you would not have bought a ticket. You would not have come here. You would have not dedicated your evening to sitting here listening to me saying, how can we make a difference for our country? You love your country. That's why you are here. And because we love our Western democracies, our free speech, our ability to practice whatever religion you want, as long as you don't step on my foot. I don't care what house of worship you built, what God you pray for. I respect your religion, you respect mine. I don't want to kill you, you don't want to kill me. Let's live in peace. These are the societies we want to live in. And so you can do the same thing. And now we're seeing the same thing happen in England. I mean, look at the rise of in Europe in general, not just in England. I mean, you see now parties in Europe that are winning election based on reforming the country, on saying we want Europe to remain Europe because Europe has become Eurabia. We want Europe to continue to be Europe with our own identity, with our own culture, with our own things that made us unique. And so we are seeing this. I'm very inspired of people rising. But you know what? As they say, it has to get so bad before it gets good. I think we are in the really, really bad. And now all we have to look to is the good as we all rise together to protect our Western civilization.
Okay. Thank you, Brigitte. That was very encouraging. And, that reminds me about the viral speech you gave 12 years ago at the Heritage Foundation, where
Yes.
the theme of this event also happens to be that as well, where you said, the peaceful majority is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Now, that was 2014.
Yeah.
Now, 12 years later, what do you see? Talking to people, just gauging the temperature in the West. Are people waking up to this threat, or are we still in the early stages of the struggle?
Well, people are forced to wake up to the threat. They are forced. And you know why they are forced to wake up? Because after October 7th, not only the Jewish community woke up, because the Jewish community was, in general, in denial. Specifically the Jewish community. Because they don't want to create waves, they don't want to cause any problem, let's keep our head low, let's not confront the situation, because if we bury our head in the sand, the problem is going to solve itself. So this too shall pass, let's just keep silent. We don't want to be around anybody controversial. If anybody says anything, oh my gosh, don't get near them. It's like as if they are nuclear and harmful to your health. For example, the Jewish Federation here wouldn't touch me with a 10-foot pole. And you can take that to any Jewish federation anywhere in Western nation, okay? They do not want to create wave. But I think after October 7th, the Jewish people who refuse to start speaking about the rise of Jew hatred, and I hate to call it anti-Semitism. I don't call it anti-Semitism. I call it Jew hatred, okay? It's Jew hatred. Because I'm Semitic. I'm from Lebanon. I have brown skin, brown hair, black hair. I'm Semitic. Look at my big lips. I'm Semitic. You can get any, I'm short, 5 feet tall, okay? So, but I'm not Jewish. So what we're seeing the rise right now of hatred is against Jews. I want you to call it by its name. It's Jew hatred. So when you talk with your friends or when you give interviews, it is Jew hatred, and that's what we are rising up against. And the Jewish community finally, after October 7th, they woke up and thought, oh my gosh, how can people hate us so much? I mean, right now the reports are coming out through the probe of what they did exactly to the people. They made family members on October 7th rape family members. And you could hear the screams before they killed them, okay? I know it's ugly, nobody wants to talk about it. They raped the corpses. They found such broken bones and hips, and they continued raping after the women died, okay? This is barbarism. There's no other word for it. Barbarism. This is beyond what animals can do, okay? That's unacceptable. I don't care who does that. It doesn't matter if Jews did that, I would condemn them with the same passion and the same breath as I'm condemning Hamas members. This level of barbarism is unacceptable in the 21st century. So once the Jewish people woke up, and then we realized that after we started seeing the Jew hatred, that look at the Christmas markets in Europe this year. The Christmas markets were canceled, and those who were still open were barricaded like a military fort. I mean, look at Germany. People could not believe this is happening in Europe. And then New Year's Eve celebrations were canceled in Paris and in London. That's what's waking people up. People are saying, whoa, 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 how did we get here? How did we get here? I mean, now this is crossed from Jew hatred to now attacking the Christians. And that's why I always say, what starts with the Jews never ends with the Jews. This is why the Christian community and anybody who's non-Jewish has a responsibility to speak up with the exact same passion I'm speaking against this evil, because we need to protect the Jewish community and our own community as well. What starts with the Jews never ends with the Jews.
I couldn't agree with you more, Brigitte. In fact, on that token itself, Canada loves to take pride in its multiculturalism and tolerance, and often I see, as an immigrant myself, there's this bigotry of low expectations, like you said. Oh, it doesn't matter. I mean, all cultures are equal, no matter how savage some of those, the belief system might be.
All cultures are not equal.
So, but here it's a racist thing to say that. So, and Gadsad, in fact, also says that demography is destiny. So, in light of that, is there a line between genuine pluralism and the and the failure to confront extremist ideologies in the West? Is there a fine line between both of these that we should?
Yes, because look, women in the West have fought very hard to get our freedom, to be able to vote, to be somebody, to be able to own a business and be sitting across from a banker and have the banker look you in the eye as a female business owner and do business with you. We fought very hard to prove that we do have a brain as well as looks as women. And some women are beautiful. They can be smart and beautiful at the same time and run businesses. We fought very hard to prove that we have a brain, that we can choose our elected officials and our candidates, and we can vote and we can participate in society. And whether we decided to get married and have children, or some women decide, I want to be a professional businesswoman for the rest of my life, motherhood is not for me, we respect these women, all women. What's happening right now is we are importing people into our culture who believe that women are second-class citizens, that women are too stupid to have an opinion to vote, that women's value is worth half of that of a man. We are importing people into our community who believe that they need to get their daughter killed in the name of honor killing, and you have had honor killing in Canada multiple times, and feel proud that the only way they can cleanse their family's honor is by killing their daughter. We do not stand for that. We stand up for the rights of Muslim women as much as we stand up for the rights of Christian and Jewish women or any other woman. I want every woman in the world to have the rights that I have in the United States. I'm a mother. I'm a grandmother of 6 grandchildren, by the way. I adore my grandchildren. Yes, thank you. Thank you. I'm a mother. I'm a grandmother. I'm a businesswoman. I'm a speaker. I'm an intellectual. I'm smart. I can retain information. I can debate. I want every financially secure, independent. I want every woman who comes to the West to be exactly like me or have the opportunity. If you choose to, I'm going to stay at home mom, I'm not going to work, I don't want to get married, whatever, fine, whatever you want. But I do not want a woman to be beaten because her husband decided, well, I don't like what you said, I'm going to beat the daylight out of you. And she's in hiding for a week because she's fully bruised. I don't want a woman having to go to a judge and saying, my husband is raping me repeatedly, he's abusing me, he's torturing me. And the Muslim judge will tell her, well, you have to go to the imam, and the imam will decide whether or not you can divorce your husband because it's a tribal Islamic Sharia law, Sharia court. We do not want that in the West. And I think we have a right to expect, to elevate the human rights of everybody that comes to our culture. We worked very hard to have the human rights that we have. We pride ourselves in the human rights that we have. We pride ourselves in that. So why are we putting up with allowing people to treat their daughters or their wives or their sisters with such abuse and beating and rape and even killing in the name of honor while we sit silently and not say anything? How can we allow this to happen under our watch?
I mean, you want you want me to talk more about Canada, so let's stick to Canada because there's a lot. I mean, you mentioned.
Boy, I'm never going to be invited again to Canada.
You mentioned Toronto has changed, sadly, for the worse since the last time you were here, and I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I've been here 8 years, and I can tell you that it's gone to shit. But pardon my French, I know I'm saying.
But tell me really how you feel.
Our immigration, our border security policies have all come under scrutiny. Even our allies are not happy with our perceived callous approach towards national security. In fact, I was just telling you earlier today about, I was just speaking to an intelligence officer associated with the White House and how you're saying that they have a poster in their office which has, which just states doers and Canadians. And that's the impression that our allies have about us, sadly. What does that tell you? I mean, you know about the anti-Semitic events across Canada, the protests and so on, not exactly news. What does that tell you about the state of affairs of Canada? And do you think that's a cause of concern for the United States as well? Because this is all not going to stay in Canada. It's eventually going to flow across the borders.
Well, it is a great cause for concern for Canada. In America, at least we have patriotism. That's what Canada doesn't have. In America, at least we have a fighting, we have the laws. Of course, we have freedom of speech, which I didn't realize that in Canada they don't have. I mean, freedom of speech is enshrined in our Constitution. So we can say things and we are protected under freedom of speech. Even though it's getting more difficult, we fight it. A lot of people are afraid, but people still speak up. We still fight. We have a fighting spirit. In Canada, they don't. In Canada has become like a territory with different tribes, and every tribe is loyalty to its own tribe, not the country. And every tribe works to how much more I can get out of this country. They don't look at it as country first and then my tribe. They look at my tribe. How can I screw Canada? How much freebies I can get out of Canada? How much free this, free that, free this, free that I can siphon out of Canada, which all of you taxpayers pay. Meanwhile, they're getting more benefits than your children. And so this is the problem with Canada. In the United States, we do have a fighting chance because the good old boys in America and girls are going to come together. And look, we were able to elect President Trump not once, but 3 times. Okay? So the 2020 election was stolen. So we elected Trump 3 times. Okay? I voted for Trump 3 times. And he came back because of the majority in the country wants to change the status quo. We know that there is a problem, and we are fighting and we are mobilizing. And like I told you, my organization, Act for America, we have helped pass 300 bills at the federal level and the state level, and we are working aggressively with the administration to make sure we pass as many bills as we can right now while we have President Trump in office. Now, probably most of you do not know that we used to have Act for Canada as well. And Valerie Price was the head of Act for Canada based out of Montreal. And we had chapters in Toronto, we had chapters everywhere. But Canada began changing by 2016 because of the Islamophobia laws. And we did not want to get into trouble with Canada anywhere because somebody said something that you all do not come under the protection of free speech that we have in the United States. And so, but what you need, the community that you have that you can gather, and this is why Jews and Christians and Buddhists and Hindus, communities in Canada need to come together, create coalitions, and work together to save your country. Because you need to work together as one magnified voice in order to impact policy. That's the only hope that you have. We're very concerned about Canada and the direction of Canada because Canada has literally been transformed. It's such a shame to see this, but it has literally been transformed.
Let's talk more about Canada and its problems. In fact, the Canadian Security Intelligence Services, CSIS, just came out with their public report last week, and it didn't make, obviously, for good reading. One of the key concerns they pointed out, which is, in fact, a growing concern, was youth radicalization. Nearly 1 in 10 of the active CSIS investigations involves a minor, that is someone under the age of 18. And since 2023, 11 minors have been arrested in Canada. Now, of course, we are seeing the rampant anti-Semitism problems in our schools and universities as well, with not to mention the pro-Palestinian narratives being peddled as well. I mean, apart from all of that, what do you also have to say about Sharia-led or Sharia-based Islamic schools in the country as well? I mean, because I'm seeing a fair rise in that in these kind of schools as well.
Well, and those are a concern. Now, again, we in the West, and I'm going to make this very clear, we have no problem with people coming here, building a synagogue, building a temple, whether a Hindu temple, a Buddhist temple, an Islamic mosque. We have no problem with people coming and practicing their religion and building their schools. I'm sure a lot of Jewish synagogues have their own schools. A lot of mega Christian churches have their own schools, which is fine, just like some mosques have their own schools. But in our synagogues, in our Jewish and Christian churches, schools, we are not teaching children to kill. I have seen videos of, especially in America, I mean, this is America we're talking about, and I'm sure it's far worse in Canada. But in America, we have seen videos in elementary schools in the United States and Islamic schools in the United States where the children are standing wearing the banner of Hamas on their forehead, pretending they're holding machine guns, and they're singing about dying and shedding their blood in the path of jihad in order to kill their enemy, in order to kill the Jews. I mean, no child should ever be subjected to this level of a hatred of teaching. So when you teach when you normalize and you make it fun for children to stand and perform in front of a whole audience like this, their parents sitting in the audience, clapping their hands in pride and joy, watching their children singing songs and reciting poetry about beheading people and shedding their blood for jihad and clapping. When you do that, you are encouraging these children to grow up and thrive, to do more of that, to get the approval of the parents, because they know, oh my gosh, my mother is going to be so proud of me. Perfect example, if you watch the footage of Hamas of October 7th, remember the phone call one guy did to his father? And he said, Dad, put my mother on the line. And he said, I just want you to know, Mom, that I killed 10 people in my own hands, Mom. 10 people, I killed them. He was so proud, knowing that his father and mother are going to be so proud of him. Proud. In an utter joy, celebrating him for killing 10 people with his own hand. Now, we Jews and Christians cannot even fathom this level of hatred. I mean, if one of my grandkids right now is 5 years old, and she's into the hitting other children if they take her toy. So now we're teaching, you don't hit, you talk to them about the toy. You don't hit somebody, you try to reason with them. We start this level of discouraging violence at the age of 5, fighting over a Barbie doll. But this is why this is so different for us in the West. But this is why we are concerned about this type of education in Islamic schools and madrasas in the West, in Canada and in the United States. It's because we are worried that when these kids become 11 years old or teenagers, and teenagers act out, it's a part of the growing up process. They push the limits, they try to get in trouble, do everything they can because they're testing what they can get away with. So when they see that they are praised for being radicals, and the more radical they are, the more they are praised by the community and by their parents and by their teachers, that's when we have a problem with that. Because we in Canada and the United States do not tolerate violence, do not tolerate hatred, do not tolerate bigotry, do not tolerate killing people, innocent people, in the name of any ideology. And again, I'm sure every single one of us in this room, Jews and Christians and Buddhists and Hindus and anybody else in this room, if you see somebody hitting or trying to stab a Muslim at a bus stop, you will be the first person who would lay their life on the line to defend that Muslim person. Every single one of us, me included, everyone. So why do we tolerate watching and staying silent when we watch all these the Jewish hatred rising, the anti-Semitism, the Jew hatred, where people are attacking Jews and we remain silent? How can Canadians stay silent? This is why we are concerned about the hatred rising in the schools and the Islamic schools and what they're teaching in these Islamic schools. Not because they're Islamic, but because of what they're teaching, the hatred and the bigotry and the violence that they are teaching in these schools.
And absolutely, I agree with you. And in fact, I forgot to mention as well, just yesterday I learned that an Islamic school in Ottawa, a parent, a Muslim father, pulled his kids out of that school because he was afraid that his kids would end up being suicide bombers. His words, not mine. So,
wow.
So that in itself tells you that this problem is right here.
Problem.
It's in Canada. It's not far off. It's right. It's happening in our cities.
Right.
Now I want to change lanes. I want to talk about Canadians' favorite American, President Trump. so, you know how well loved he is in this part of the world. So even among conservatives. A lot of Canadians feel that President Trump is unfairly targeting Canada on issues of national security and fentanyl and so on. But, in my view, and from what I've seen with other administrations, Democrat, whether it was President Biden or Obama. For example, we had the case just a couple of years ago under President Biden where TD Bank, one of the largest banks, was slapped with a $3 billion fine, the largest ever fine given to a bank for money laundering and terror financing. So clearly, this is not a Republican president, it was a Democrat. So what coming to say is that Canada is seen as a problem irrespective of who's president, the US president. So you have worked with various administrations. Is that the sense you get as well, that Canada is seen as a perpetual problem child?
Yes, we are concerned about Canada. And our concern about Canada in America is that Canada has changed so much than the Canada of 20 years ago, because Canada is becoming less strict when it comes to fighting terrorism. They are less aware of problems because they have been infiltrated so much by radical terrorist extremists, even within the government, and have been empowered within positions of levels, different levels in the government, even as employees who work in governmental offices, that we know that their intelligence is compromised. So Canada is not as courageous as the Canada of 20 years ago. And because of the proximity of Canada to the United States, and because of the porous open borders, and because of the work that we did together, and families, I mean, look, Canada and America are, the two sisters, I mean, America could be the big sister, Canada is a smaller sister, but we're the same, we're part of the same family. So I would guess that his concern as a president, President Trump, is just going to be like any sibling concerned about the little sister or brother who they are worried about not making the right decision to protect themselves. We all have had either sisters or brothers who maybe were going down the wrong path as teenager, and you worry about them. You do not want your sister or your brother to be in trouble, so that's why you are like the big brother or sister trying to protect them. Now, the little brother or sister do not appreciate that. They say, I'm big enough, you don't need to say that about me. I don't need you, I can protect myself. Who do you think you are? You don't know any better. But I think we in America, because of the intelligence that we have on radical extremism and the element, the Muslim Brotherhood working and rising within our own societies, we can see the same thing happening in Canada, but Canadians are too afraid to confront it or do not know about the extent of the infiltration of radicalism into the country, or are just too lazy to even pay attention to the issue. But in any case, it affects America, and that's why America is very concerned.
I think we are going to wrap up soon. So, Brigitte, if you had to leave, tonight with some kind of whether it's a warning or a piece of advice or a call to action to our friends here, what would that be?
My call to action and my message to you would be organized and become engaged. And here's what I mean by that. There is a big difference between education and activism. This tonight is entertainment, okay? This does not impact policy. This does not change or pass any bill in your country. This is entertainment. This is as if you're sitting at home watching Dancing with the Stars. This is just a different form of entertainment. The problem on the right is people confuse education with activism. I talk to people, I'll give you a perfect example about America. I talk to people all the time and I say, Joe, are you engaged? Are you active? And Joe would say to me, oh, Brigitte, I'm very engaged. I attend every conference I can get to. We hear great speakers. I attend CPAC. I attend this. I attend that. I got my picture taken with so-and-so, and I got my picture taken with so-and-so, and I paid for the VIP reception, so I get my picture taken and my book autographed by so-and-so, and everybody gets excited at the conference, and everybody is on a high, and they go home, and 7 days later, they have no idea what to do. They were entertained. Or they say to me, oh, I'm a member of the Republican Party and I attend the monthly meeting, or I'm a member of the Tea Party, or I'm a member of this party and that party, and everybody gets together once a month. They hear a great speaker, they eat the rubber chicken, they are greatly entertained, and at the end of the meeting, everybody taps their hand on the shoulder and they say, oh my gosh, what a great meeting we had tonight. Wasn't that a great speaker? And everybody goes home and nothing changes. The reason is this is entertainment. You stop any leftist socialist activist, 22-year-old nitwit on the street, and ask him, why are you a socialist? They can't even tell you what socialism is. But by golly, are they engaged? Are they active? They call their elected officials. They go meet with their elected officials. They organize. They have groups. They make a list of all the people on their city council they want to get rid of, and they want to elect somebody else. These are the list of the enemies, the people who don't agree with us. And so this is entertainment. Look at it as a concert. People go when you go to a conference, to a symposium or whatever. You hear a great lineup of speakers and everybody is on a high and they can't wait to get there, and look at it as performers performing on stage. I'm the star tonight sitting on stage. I've got security around me. You all pay tickets to come here, not to me, but to Tafsik. But you know what I mean? So everybody came. This is an entertainment event. So look at it like a concert. When you go to a concert and you buy tickets and everybody is so excited, oh my gosh, I can't wait to go see Elton John. And everybody buys ticket to go see Elton John. You are on a high for a week, and then you go see Elton John concert, and then you hear all the people who speak before the Elton John, and then you are so excited. It's been fantastic. You go back home, and 7 days later, you met new great friends. 7 days later, you have no idea what to do. This is a political concert. Any symposium, any conference you go to is a concert, but political concert. That does not impact policy. Education does not impact policy. What impacts policy is you forming groups, monitoring bills coming down for a vote from Ottawa, saying we need to mobilize people to put pressure on our elected officials not to vote for this bill, or to vote for this bill because we want to pass a bill that protects the Jewish community in our community, whatever it is. So you need to organize, you need to start local groups. You can go to Action for Canada. I know there's an organization, Action for Canada, that does this. I do not know how much Tafsik does this, but you need to get into that as well. That's how you're going to be able to impact policy. That is activism. As long as you understand the difference between activism and entertainment, that's when you're going to start winning and making your case. The Islamists, the radical Islamists, the Muslim Brotherhood understand activism. The Palestinians understand activism. They are engaged while we are getting educated. And so get involved, get engaged, start something with Tafsik, join Action for Canada, make sure you sign up for our emails and Action Alert, Act for America, even though we're called Act for America, but we focus on a lot of things also outside of America. Education, sometimes you report stuff going on in your community. And again, you know, the Muslim Brotherhood. You need to read the Muslim Brotherhood. You need to be educated about what's happening with the Muslim Brotherhood and their infiltration. They've been doing this now. They are 35 years into their plan. And when you read their plan, you go to yourself, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I did not know about this earlier. So again, you can get the plan by going to actforamerica.org, request the plan. $26 donation will send you the plan. You need to see it. You need to read it. Become engaged, become active. And I think we're wrapping. This is the last question. I cannot tell you how honored I am to be with you tonight. I cannot tell you how proud I am to sit before you tonight and network with you and share information with you and share activism tips with you and share our passion and our love to make the world a better place. Amir and the whole Tafsik organization, I want to thank you for bringing me to Canada. I want to thank you for having the courage, the guts, the chutzpah, the fight within, the fire to bring me to Canada. So together we can make a difference. Thank you all for having me. Thank you, Joe, for being a great interviewer. I appreciate you. May God bless you. Thank you for having me with you tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brigitte, Gabriel. And give a hand to Joe, Adam, George.